Flora for hikers, we continue in trying to break down the vast number of plants that you're going to see or come across in Arizona, 4,000 species. So we're going to break it down today by family, the largest family in the state, the largest plant family on planet Earth, sunflower family. Now you are probably going to recognize sunflowers, at least from the traditional big sunflower, but there's a lot of other members of this family, obviously, and they may throw you for a curve as being part of this family. Recognizing it, we're going to take two approaches. If you're going to teach someone to read, you're going to sound out the letters mostly. D-O-G, duh, ah, g. Flip it around, just sound it out. G, ah, duh. So you can figure out what the words are just by sounding them out. Some words are sight words, and they're everywhere in English. I am a literacy tutor, and it's very frustrating for people whose native language is not English. The, head, office. These words are everywhere, and you have to just memorize them and know what they look like. And it's the same with these plants. There are so many, but once you read the structure of the arrangement of the florets that make what looks like a flower. This is not a flower, okay? Each one of what looks like a petal is a whole flower in and of itself, okay? So underneath the head are brackets called phyllaries, okay? Look for that. The disc flowers are usually tubular. The ray flowers are like ligulate or strap-shaped. All right, now sometimes there are no disc flowers. They're all strap-shaped. Sometimes there are no strap-shaped. They're all disc, okay? So the leaves, the stems, where they grow is variable, but the constant you read the structure of the florets in the head, you got sunflower. Now, 4,000 species in Arizona. It's a problem. 500 species of sunflowers. You've eliminated 90% of the other plants just by recognizing this one family, the one that you probably already recognize, but may not realize that it's part of a single family. Now, we'll share a resource that some of these technical people really split it up, and there's different tribes, and it's very technical. Some of the characteristics to get to species level are like microscopic. So you wouldn't worry about it, you wouldn't care about it, as long as you understand you have a senecio or a solidago or a cirsium, ground goldenrod or a thistle, you're good to go. There may be 20 species of thistle, but once you've got a thistle, then you can use some of these books to easily narrow it down from there. But you break down the group, and then you're ready to go. Sunflowers, we'll show you a picture there. Meadow, base of Mormon Mountain, thousands of them, okay? For miles, it looks like, all right? So they're everywhere, they're common, artwork. Hello, sunshine. Okay, so they're beautiful. They are not particularly useful. There are some that are ornamental, chrysanthemums. There are some food plants like lettuce and artichokes, but there's a lot of them that are poisonous. And I just have to read you a little paragraph, a little couple sentences out of this Baba Kivri book. Okay, so since there are very few of them that are food plants, you will notice that in Wendy Hodgson's book, Food Plants for the Native Peoples in the Sonoran Desert, 3, 4, 5 out of thousands or hundreds are sunflowers, because they're just not very many that are edible. Okay, but there are some that are poisonous. Okay, there's a plant called, the genus is Agaritina, snake root. Okay, so there's a species that's white snake root, caused a thing called milk sickness or the trembles. All right. a mysterious and feared disease that attacked farm families and their livestock in the 1800s. You know that plants attack people, diseases? Huh, you didn't know that, did you? Okay. The malady was more common in the South and Midwest, particularly in North Carolina, Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. In 1818, Abraham Lincoln's mother, Nancy Hanks Lincoln, died of this disease in Little Pigeon Creek, Indiana. At least partly because of that, Thomas Lincoln and his new wife Sarah and young Abraham moved to Illinois. Although the cause of the problem was determined in the 1830s, county officials in Kentucky were still complaining in 1852 that the disease was so prevalent that it deterred settlers. Okay, so the impact of these plants, far-reaching, all right? So you may not realize it, but this is part of what this series is about, is for you to develop a greater appreciation. You're a Flora for hikers, all right? So you're out there hiking because you're interested in what's out there, I would presume. Okay, so we're going to show you a few pictures of the individual plants. Now I've got a couple of pictures, thanks to our friends, Flowering Plants of the World, of the flowers and the variability just within the family. There are plants that are in this family, ragweed, for example, and you would not recognize it as a sunflower, but again, the flowers are arranged in a head. Some of the pieces may be missing, but it is still a head. The heads may be cup-shaped, they may be flat, but they're still a head. There may be a handful of flowers in the head, there may be dozens of flowers in a head. There may be one head at the end of a stem, there may be bunches of flowers at the head. But you've got to look for the head and then go from there. Okay, once you've got a flower with the florets arranged in a head, you've got a sunflower. And then you work on the individual species. And this is a building process. You're just going to add a few plants with each hike. Okay? So don't try to get it all at once. Thanks to our friends, Benson and Darrow, okay, Woody Plants of the Southwest Deserts, they give us a nice illustration. You can see there of what the average sunflower head looks like, okay, and the individual flowers and how they're arranged. Okay, so keep that in mind and look for that, okay? And then once you've got the head in mind, then you can go from there with the individual species. All right, so the first picture is a sunflower, all right? And so you can see in that picture the top as well as the bottom, and you can get an idea of what those filaries look like, how they're configured. Sometimes they have a bristly margin, sometimes they have a smooth margin, sometimes they're very overlapping like shingles, and sometimes they're more spread out. So, but that is a sunflower, is number one. The discs can be 5 inches across, and I've got to read one little introduction out of this, okay, because it's about sunflowers. It's chapter 1, amazing. Okay, 1597, the English herbalist John Gerard appeared disappointed that the common sunflowers he grew in his garden in Holborn, London, were only 14 feet tall. What a disappointment. Because those of his European competitors reached a scarcely believable 24 feet. Great book, all kinds of stuff about the history and the art and the horticulture, the food, the medicine, the poisons. Very readable, good book. Okay. All right, so sunflowers, about 8 species in Arizona, flowers in the summertime. And again, you're going to recognize it. You already do probably recognize it. Next, daisies. And again, I'm going to mention the genus name because you just got to have it to know what you're talking about. Sunflower, Helianthus. Daisy, Erigeron. Okay, so the ray flowers in this one, and I'm showing you the head picture, the front, and also the underneath. The ray flowers, very tiny, many more of them. okay? So you get that picture in your mind. Again, like with all the sunflower, the leaves and stems and all that's variable. These plants are found originaron from 1,000 feet elevation to 9,000 feet. You're gonna find them everywhere. There's probably about 24 species in Arizona. Okay, so you're gonna see these things everywhere you go in the state, pretty much. Okay, so originaron, a little bristly, smaller heads, only about 1.5 inches in diameter. Next, thistle, the genus Cirsium. Usually they're purplish, very spiny. Sometimes they're red, sometimes they're purple. No ray flowers, all disc flowers in the thistles, but it is still a head. This head is a little bit more cup-shaped instead of being flat, okay? Everywhere, 3,000 feet to 9,000 feet, about 17 species. Usually though, you have just one flower at the top of the stem, so they're single-headed, all right? Thistle, sunflower family. You wouldn't recognize it as that probably, but it is. Dandelion, the genus Taraxacum, all right? So no disc flowers, all strap-shaped flowers. Now, the one thing that also unifies the family along with the head is the fruit, okay? So it's a dry seed, think sunflower seeds. Sometimes these fruits, these dry achenes or cypsellas, sometimes they're called, have little puffs on them, like the parachute for the dandelion that floats through the air, helps with seed dispersal, okay? Sometimes they don't have that. Sometimes it takes all kinds of different shapes and lengths and stuff like that, which helps with species identification. But you've got a dandelion, you're probably gonna be happy. The other thing about dandelions, excuse me, is about milky sap, okay? They're edible. They're used medicinally as well. Don't make a face about that. All right, so dandelions, very dissected leaves. They are found from 100 feet elevation to 9,000 feet. They're everywhere, yards. You see them just taking over. Weeds, some of these are very weedy. Sunflower family plants grow in some of the worst places, disturbed, dry. They grow everywhere on the planet except Antarctica. They're everywhere. You've got to know them. Okay, coneflower is the next one. Rudbeckia is the genus. Okay, so the cone, the top is kind of a cone shape with the rays, the radial florets kind of drooping down, and the disc is kind of a cone shape. All right, so leaves dissected. These things can be 7 feet tall, high mountain meadows, so 5,000, 8,000 feet, single-headed again, and I show you a picture looking up at the top part, but also then at the filaries underneath. That's what those green bracts are called under the head. All right, now we're going to shift down to the desert. A white-flowered chicory, Raffinaceae is the genus. All right, all strap-shaped ray flowers, no disc flowers. Spring wildflower down the desert. An annual, single-headed, is usually about 3 feet tall. Head's about 1.5 inches, 2 inches wide. Okay, only 2 species in Arizona. Next one is one of my favorites called brown foot. And it's called brown foot because at the base of the stem is this fuzzy brown stuff. And that's, but again, you look for the head, and this time it's not a single head, there's a cluster of heads, and they're kind of pinkish purplish, and you don't find a whole lot of sunflower family plants that are that color. Most often they're red, or yellow rather, and sometimes they're white, but you don't find too many pinkish purplish ones, but that's how this one is. And a cluster of heads up at the ends of the branches. The leaves clasp the stem, and they're a little bit spiny, not like a thistle though, at all. Okay? Cortia is the genus. Next, ambrosia is the genus. Ragweed, and the picture there just shows the stamens. Now some of these florets are male, some are female, some are both, some are neither. And so in this one, you get the male pollen up at the top of the plant. The female turns into a burr that catches on animal fur and helps get, spread around that way. So it's on the same plant. It's called monoecious, one house. Sometimes you get the male on one plant and the female on the other plant. all right? That's dioecious, 2 houses, okay? So, we'll get to that. So, ragweed, great for suffering people, asthma and hay fever, and the pollen just goes everywhere all over the world, thousands of miles. So it's pretty not a fun plant for people that suffer with respiratory issues. Okay, greenish flowers, you wouldn't even recognize them as flowers, but our next one, cocklebur, the genus Xanthine, you're gonna recognize cockleburs, and you're gonna throw them on your friends, and they're gonna stick on their clothes, and that's how Velcro was inspired, because plants rule and animals drool, as we know. Okay, only a couple of species. Cocklebur usually just grows around wet places though, even desert streams, even if it's not wet all the time, or pond margins. Okay. Bushy annual, below 6,000 feet, very coarse sandpapery kind of leaves. All right, yarrow is next, little white flower, bunch of heads clustered at the top of a stem. The fern-like leaves are very distinctive. Pine forest, you really probably couldn't miss it, but look for those heads, to 3 feet tall, 1 species in Arizona. Okay, our last one before we do something that we've never done before. Porophyllum, poor leaf, okay? So it stinks. Don't make a funny face. Like that. All right, so as specimens, you gotta have specimens when you're talking about plants. All right, poor leaf. And whiff of that. Whew, stinks. All right, so you notice purplish, brownish desert. You'll be hiking along and you will smell, man, what is that stench? You look around and this is going to be it. Chemicals in these sunflower families are just like goofy and everywhere. No ray flowers, just disc flowers, and the head is kind of tall and skinny, but it is still a head. Okay, purplish color, green stems. All right, so now you would recognize that one as sunflower family. Senecio is the genus, thread leaf. The old stuff is still on there from last season, but you can still see the head on there, okay? So look for the head. You can see the filaries underneath there. These heads are a little taller, they're not flat, but you see the rays and the disc. Think sunflower family. Senecio is the genus for this one. Thread leaf. Leaves are dissected in that species. All right. See that? I've had 2 patrons tell me, are those snowflakes flying around out there? This is what it is. Okay, this is Arizona's desert snowball. You'll see these bushes, desert broom, off on the side, and it's just a big, like a white snowball. And you'll see the stuff floating through the air. Again, those achenes, the fruits, have little tufts on them, like a dandelion sapling, and they just provide air support to float through the air. The male plants over here, brownish, they're not going to be whitish like this, provide the pollen. But you'll notice, again, of course, it's got the head, the filaries, and you can point them out. With plants, you got to touch them. Maybe you have to smell them. Okay, you've got to, animals you see way over there, they run away. Plants don't do that. So, but you've got to get close to them to figure out what they are. You cannot be identifying them from a distance. This is why there's no spruce on Spruce Mountain. We have a series on the conifers of Arizona, and I talk about that. All right, the last one, desert marigold. Okay, this is desert, very common up here too, out of the desert. The ray flowers, as it matures and it gets ready to poop out, scoop down or fold down, and then the head you see there, and then it's going to dry out and just have the seeds inside there. White woolly leaves, small. Okay, often you see a lot of stuff on roadsides because of the extra moisture. Finally, we're going to have a test. We've never done this before. Are you ready? All right, so first picture. Plant called barberry. It's a cluster of yellow flowers there. Pine forest. The leaves almost look like little holly-like. They're simple leaves, a little bit of a margin there. Okay, is that a sunflower is the test question. These next plants, are they sunflowers or are they not? Tick tock, tick tock. Okay, I'll give you a hint. Blue berries on the fruit of this. Not a sunflower. Sunflowers don't have blue berries. Okay, but you could, if you look closer in there, you see it was not arranged in a head. It would be individual flowers, not clustered in a head. Next, this plant is called mountain parsley. Okay, the genus is, really cool name, Pseudocymatopterus. I love that. Leaves are divided, pine forest, one species in Arizona. Color could be yellow or red. What do you think? I'll give you a hint. Flowers arranged in umbels, which is like an umbrella wands. Okay, that's not a head. It's compact, the flowers are tiny, but this is not a sunflower family. And if you look closer at that, you can see. The next one, white, pearly everlasting, the genus Anaphyllus. This picture actually is from Kings Peak, Utah, but this plant grows also in West Fork and other higher elevation forested cool places. Minute flowers, lots of white papery bracts in there. What is it? Sunflower family or not? This is a member of the sunflower family. Okay, pearly everlasting. Next, Mexican hat, the genus Rudbeckia. And you can see there these, what look like petals drooping down and a cone sticking up in the middle. Okay, sometimes the flowers, what looks like petals, are red, and that's in this case. Sometimes they're yellow. Okay, 3 feet tall, leaves dissected, member of the sunflower family. Yes, because those, what looks like petals are flowers, sunflower, and that cone in the middle is a head, okay? Next, goldenrod. I've mentioned that name earlier. Solidago is the genus, 9 species in Arizona, summer flowering, a crowded cluster of flowers at the end of the branch. And if you look at them close enough, you will see raised disc. This is a very widespread, common sunflower family, great for hay fever sufferers, not making them happy. Tragopogon is the next genus. Salsify is the common name. Single-headed, leaves are grass-like, high mountain meadows. You're looking at that face on and you see those, what looks like the ray flowers or petals around there. Sunflower family. You'll get a big white puff of, again, these fruits that have parachutes that'll float around and they'll blow. Okay? Last one. Secuta is the genus. Water hemlock. And again, you see the umbels, like an umbrella. That's characteristic of the carrot family, Queen Anne's lace, stuff like that. Not a member of the sunflower family, okay? So, hopefully you'll look at those pictures, look at plants closely, and see if it's got a head or not. And if you read that head, then start memorizing. It's like a person that walks into your life. Oh, they're a human member of the family. I don't have to decide if they're a giraffe or a koala bear or a person. No, I can read that they read books and they drive, they're a person. But then I recognize them individually. This is Sid, this is Manny, this is Virginia, okay? So we do this all the time with words, with people. You can do it with plants as well. I want to mention Composite, that's the old-fashioned name of the family, composite.org. Incredible website, YouTube videos which will show you, they're usually pretty technical, but just look at the illustrations there and see how incredible and amazing this family of plants is. And as you're hiking, you're gonna run into them, literally. So, get to know them. Be like finding a familiar face in the library or work or neighborhood. It's on the trail too, a familiar face. We like that. All right, see you next time.